Links to everything will be in the description below. This is the basic rundown of what we're going to be working on today. We are going to be setting up a state machine, which will be used to control our enemy's AI. So this is a quick diagram of our state machine. We start off in our entry state. All this is at the beginning, we default to our patrol state, so we're moving around. If we are in range of the player, we're going to switch to our attack state, and then when we press a button, we're going to go back to patrolling. This might be triggered in animation once we get that set up, so after you do the attack, then you go back to patrolling or whatever. For now, we're just setting up the framework. We'll worry about the details and how to make it fit in our game best later on. So let's jump straight into that. The first step is to create your enemy prefab. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to create an empty game object, call it enemy, and then I'm going to give it a child of its art, and then I added a little indicator at the top to indicate which direction it is facing. All this is going to get changed later on, but this is just for the prototype. Then I'll drag my prefab down to my prefabs folder, and that will turn it into a prefab. Next, we need to do our scripts. So I'm going to go to my scripts folder, open up my classes folder, and we are going to create a new state class. So state. The way the state machine works is each state is going to be its own script. Your enemy is going to have a state variable that tracks what our current state is. The code for our state class is going to be a little bit different than what you would normally see. The first thing you're going to notice immediately is that we have a new keyword here, abstract, for our class. The class also does not inherit from anything. All abstract does is allows me to have this public abstract void tick function. Abstract here makes it that it requires the tick function in anything that inherits from this class in order for that script to not have any errors. Tick is not optional. Our onstate enter and onstate exit calls, however, are optional. And then here we have a constructor. A constructor is a function that is automatically called when a new instance of the class is created. We've got our melee enemy underscored, and that's just because we haven't created that script yet, which we will do. And what we do is when we create a new state, we're going to give it an enemy, a melee enemy, and then we're going to assign it to our particular variable. This will allow each state to keep track of what our enemy is. So let's move on to the next script. That is going to be our base enemy script. I'm going to create a C# script. I'm going to call it enemy, and our enemy is going to have two variables. We are going to have our protected float speed, because all enemies will have speed, and we'll have a protected state current state. This state here is going to be whatever current state we are in. We are also going to make sure that we call our tick function in our update. Additionally, we need to create a function to allow us to set our state. The function that we're going to create for this is set state. So set state is going to require a state, and then it's going to check if our current state does not equal null. So are we already doing something? Are we already patrolling? Are we already attacking? We want to call our onState exit of that state. Then we want to set our current state to whatever that new state is that we want it to be. And then this is a safety check. If our current state is not equal to null, just to make sure that this line did in fact assign a state, we're going to call our enter on our new state. The next class that we need to make is our melee enemy class. So this is going to be specifically for melee enemies. We would make a new ranged enemy script if we wanted a ranged enemy. So I'm going to make a new folder, call this enemies, and inside this folder, I am going to make a melee enemy script. Melee enemy is going to inherit from enemy, and now that this has been created, if I go back to my state, our squigglies went away because it now knows what a melee enemy is. And we need to give it our start. We want to set our new patrol state. Now, our patrol state is going to be a script that we haven't made yet, but this is going to be our state that handles patrolling. And because of a constructor, this constructor right here, we have to give it an enemy. So we're just going to give it this instance, this script. Then in our update, we're just going to call our base update. This override keyword allows you to do both the update here, our current state tick, and any new code we would want to do in our update. The base.update right here is referring to this update. Override allows us to add new stuff. The base allows us to do the one that already exists. Then I'm going to set up two functions. These are going to be called by our patrol state and our attack state respectively. So we are not going to make them actually move or attack today. That will be the next video in the series. Right now we're just getting the framework set up. So what we want to happen is when we're in our patrol state, our move debug is going to be called. When we are in our attack state, our attack debug is going to be called. Which leads us to the next part. We need to make our states. So once again, I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call this states. Then I am going to set up my patrol state first. I'm going to right click and create a new script, patrol state. And then inside of our patrol state, we need to set up our constructor. Every state is going to have this constructor. It also needs to make sure that it inherits from state. That will allow this base enemy to happen here. And right now we see how we have a red underscore. That's because it does not implement inherited abstract member state tick. We need to make sure that exists. Otherwise we will get that error. So that is our next function that we need to add. So our tick is going to call move on our enemy, as well as provide whatever condition we want to switch to our new state. So here we are going from our current state, our patrol state, to our attack state when we click or hit the down arrow. Right here, enemy.move refers to whatever our enemy is. In our case, it is a melee enemy named enemy, and it calls its move function. So if we look at our melee enemy, it is going to call this function right here. The reason that it knows that it's this specific one is because right here when we create our new patrol state, we're telling it, hey, it's me. We care about this melee enemy. Attack state is going to be underlined, of course, because we have not created that state yet. We do want to add in our on-state enter and potentially on-state exits if you want. I'm just going to show how to do the on-state enter. It is going to be an overridden function, and then you just put whatever code you want to happen there. Now let's make our attack state. After you create the script, we are going to set it up much the same. We are going to plug in our constructor again. We're going to feed in a melee enemy and then do the base enemy again. Again, this base enemy in the constructor, all this does is it calls the constructor in our base class. So when we create a new attack state, automatically this function is called. It is going to take our melee enemy, name it enemy, and then give our base constructor. So now we're going to go to our states constructor, and melee enemy is now equal to that enemy from before, and then it is going to assign it here. So we now know who we are, who we belong to. Once again, we're going to see an error here. It does not implement the abstract member state tick because we need our tick. So I'm going to bring that in. Right now, I'm not going to set up anything to move back to patrol state, but we could if we want. We also need our enter, and this once again will refer to our attack in our enemy. After it compiles, all of our errors should go away, and now we just need to plug it up. So I'm going to open up my prefab for my enemy. The way I did that was clicked on this little arrow here. I'm going to add my melee enemy script to my enemy. I will set my speed to something above 0, and then I am going to hit play. We shall see it stand still. It says entered patrol. We're moving. And then if I press the down arrow, we are going to switch to attacking. So it says entered attack, and we are attacking. This is exactly what we want to happen. We have a simple state machine set up. The next step in the next video is going to be exchanging these debug.logs for events that call to a different script that handles movement and handles attacking. We will start off with movement and then we will do attacking. I hope you found this interesting. I hope everything was clear. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons, comment if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next one.